what's this issue that you've got with our youth? They are growing up in this society, especially in America. They even have some form of Islamic education, but then later on, we find a lot of them are leaving Islam. What do you reckon? Why is that happening?
So, Shaykh, first of all, in our country, our youth have many influences and many challenges. And one of the challenges that they have nowadays, perhaps more than the generations before us, is a challenge of even openly identifying as Muslims in specific areas. So what happens is that some of them are even huffaz, they have a good masjid structure, they perhaps even have an imam, but at the same time, they don't find themselves connected to any specific personality that can help lead them in their challenging times in their young age. So regardless if you're Muslim or not, every youngster goes through challenges.
Right.
Every youngster has their issues. But if they don't feel comfortable discussing those issues, and they don't find a safe haven in a sanctuary like Ashabul Kahf, they don't find a place to go and able to.
So what is it that they go to the masjid, and the masjid has a structure. So we're kind of hearing more and more of these people leaving Islam. We're even hearing huffaz, which is astonishing. They spend 2 to 3 years memorizing the Quran. Why do you think they'll leave Islam? What are some of the underlying reasons?
I feel like because many of us are a part of the institutions that open hifz schools, we're imitating and emulating the same types of modules that we study from back home. And then you bring those modules to America, you bring it to the West. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not a one stroke of the brush. You got to figure out the pulse of the people.
So are you saying that it should be slightly different?
I mean,
and how?
Exactly. So I think definitely it needs to be different. Now the question becomes how.
So one of the things that goes through my mind is that if you have students who are doing hifz, but they're not given a foundation of the religion, they're not given a good understanding of the religion, they don't really know the Quran.
Definitely not. So many of these hifz schools, Shaykh, you're from England, Shaykh, you probably know better than us, we're young, but they'll have 6 hours of hifz. Continue.
6 hours?
6, 7 hours of
6, 7 hours.
Just hifz, like they're memorizing, mashallah, amazing. They'll finish Quran in 2 years. Bakka huffaz, like the jami' huffaz, they know the Quran very strong. But during that time in which they were doing hifz, 2 elements have to be, synonymous to their hifz. Number 1, the tadbiyah while they're becoming hafiz. The sunnah, tadbiyah, the teachers actually having the ability and the power to rectify them. Now, there's no tadbiyah in their hifz.
I mean, let me share something with you, right? When I was in England, and I'm talking about 20, actually I'm talking about now about 30 something years ago, right? When I was doing hifz in a local mosque, not one day did they even teach me about fard ghusl, when you should have, when it is obligatory of when to have a ghusl. Not one day did they teach that, right? So imagine this, you're doing the hifz of the Quran, and you might be needing a bath to even enter the masjid, and it's not even halal for you to pick up the Quran, and the teacher never went through that because his duty was just to teach you hifz, right? We had no other lessons. We had whatever we did prior to that when we were young, like, maybe a few salah things. Okay, we learned that. But you never got to know anything about the Quran at hand. And I'll tell you another one, right, that really struck me, is that I was at school in what you guys have as grade 7. So over there it's 6, year 6 we call it. So I was in school, and the teacher asked the students and said that, what do you guys do after school? So each person said something. And I said, okay, I go to a mosque to memorize a book. She said, what book is that? I said, Quran. She said, really? She said, read something. And I read it in Arabic. I said, wow, so you're memorizing a whole book. How many pages? I said, it was 848, because that was the Quran I was memorizing from. She said, well, now tell me what's the meaning of that. And I said, I don't know. She said, what's the meaning of that? I said, I don't know. And she was so astonished, this non-Muslim teacher, she was so astonished, and she stopped the class, other 2 classes. She said, Hasan is memorizing this big book, but he doesn't know a single word of what he's saying. He doesn't know the meaning. And I felt a bit stupid, to be honest with you, standing there. But the thing was that this hits home, because we're not asking these Huffaz to know the meaning of the Quran. But what we're asking is, at least they should have a grounding of understanding of Islam, and they should know what the do's and don'ts are. They should know the reasons why they're doing some of the things. I mean, how is a Hafiz supposed to be an Imam of Taraweeh if he doesn't really know his Aqidah properly?
So, Shaykh, I think there's two things. First of all, what was the objective of the parents when they put them in Hifz school, and what is the objective of the institution while they're teaching them? If the institution, the factory which is molding these huffaz, if it's not a part of the fabric and their objective to make them leaders,
Right.
and just to make them huffaz, well, al-asha'u yubayyin bi maqasidihim, like that's what you're gonna get.
Right. So I tell you one big reason why they've put them into Hifz is because the parents want a crown of light on the Day of Judgment.
Which is fine, sure.
And that's what. No, but that is their objective. So they want to go to Jannah. They want to ensure that they go to Jannah quick, right? But you know what they all forget on, and we should have a reminder for all these Hifz students is, and even the whole system is, that the hadith says, "Man ahalla halalahu wa harrama harama." Whoever leads a life of conforming to the halal of the Quran as halal and the haram of the Quran they treat it as haram, then they get these extra bonuses of the akhirah. So let's now move on to this thing.
Like if we think about huffaz just generally, they're not leaving or even ignoring Islam because they're huffaz. It's despite the fact they're huffaz.
Right.
So it's not something which is specific to quote unquote people that have studied Islam. It's a more generic epidemic, and I feel like every era has their own need. And based upon that need, society and the people in charge that are the mas'ul, the scholars, the leaders of the community,
they're responsible.
They have to figure out a way. And this happened every era of our society. You talk about where Salahuddin came from. You talk about where Mahmud al-Fatih came. You talk about all these people. They were able to conform.
I was going to say one thing to you. What's important is that, what would you say is more important? Is it more important to have a child that is Hafiz, yet the child doesn't know much about the religion? Or is it better to have a few children in every society, fard kifaya? So basically it completes the fard for us, the obligation for us. You have a few children that are huffaz, but we have many children that have got good akhlaq, that know the Islam, that are upright Muslims, that know the religion. That time, that 6 to 7 hours that we got all these students to do hifz of the Quran, if we had produced a generation of Muslims who have got 6 to 7 hours of good understanding of Islam, the tarbiyah, the akhlaq, and the nurturing and so on, isn't it better for us to have that?
Shaykh, 100%, but at the same time, they don't completely defy each other. So what I'm trying to say is, like, who makes things go viral? Because becoming a hafiz in England, definitely, now so even in America, has become a viral trend.
Right. Yes.
It's become viral.
Yes,
So it's a trend now. So every person wants to make their son or daughter hafiz. They made it, and it's a very good trend to have.
It's a good trend to have.
But now it was good till here. Now, for example, if a student is studying he's doing an associate program, you're doing a good job. But now you have to do your bachelor's too. Right. And if you can't do your bachelor's, at least you know that I didn't do something. So what's happening now is I think we have to create a new trend, and we have to make something new viral. And that thing is figuring out how every masjid or every community can have some form of makatib. And many masjids in America do, mashallah, doing an amazing job. And because of those makatib, if you go to Michigan, we have every masjid, like IGD, Tawheed, you have, in Ann Arbor, you have in Kenton, you have a masjid which has these makatib, which are healthy.
Let me ask you about this, because in America you have largely either Sunday schools, or you have Saturday schools, or you have Friday evenings, right? That's what I've heard, right? So whoever has Friday evenings, that's it, Friday evenings. Whoever has Saturday mornings, whoever has Sunday mornings, right? That's all they have, yeah? I seriously feel that many hours, even if it's 3 to 4 hours a week, is nowhere enough to establish a good grounding of Islam in the child. What have you seen in America?
Shaykh, I think even if they spend 6 hours a weekend, 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday, 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, but if there is a system which they can follow, because we cannot give our children, ourselves, a formula which cannot be followed. If our people can follow it in this generation, what's going to happen to the next generation?
Right.
So we have to figure out a formula which everyone can follow. Like, this is something that I can do, and I'm not letting anything else go. So if, for example, we have weekend school, we have 2 or 3 hours on Saturday, 2 or 3 hours on Sunday, but if there's a system which every single Saturday, Sunday school can figure out, finalize, make sure it's perfected and it's excelling, and they see the effect of that in the students, that's good enough in many ways.
That's good. That's very good. I mean, we've seen, like, for example, the Safar publication, Safar Academy that I've personally got in England. We've got also some maktabs over there, and we personally have a program of 7 hours that we deliver every single week. Some have 10 hours, some have 8 hours, and some have 6 hours, like you're saying, more or less. But we've got our own books, which is Safar Publications, and it's being used across the world right now. I've introduced some of those books to you, and I'm introducing it to others. Now, the whole point is that whether it's this one or other syllabus, you're absolutely right. You've got to have a system. You've got to be on it. You've got to have it in your mind that you're doing the tarbiyah of these children. You want to make them something. You just don't want them to go through a little system and finish. I was gonna say to you another thing, which is, what do you now see after, let's say we've gone now through 2 generations of Muslims going through these systems? We've got a huge amount of challenges that these youth are facing. So what would you say is one big challenge or a couple of the big challenges that these youth are facing? Because we're seeing, now let's leave the Hufaz aside, we're seeing a general thing about Muslim youth in America. Some of them, they're either on the verge of leaving the faith, or they don't know the faith, or they want to leave the faith, or they have left the faith, right? So what is this? What is the cause of this epidemic? What are the challenges that they're facing, and what is happening to some of them?
So that's a very, as many facets to this question. I'll start off by saying, Shaykh, as much as negativity and as many challenges the youth of America have, today perhaps 10 years prior to this, today we have more faculties and more institutions in place to help these people.
Right, good.
So, and not I want to say help, but to work together. So, as much as of all the negative things that are happening, there's more positive things that are happening.
Good.
So, for example, before 10 years ago, there were only, one masjid that had a hifz school. Right. Now, 15 masjids have a hifz school. Before, there was only one Saturday Sunday school in the community. Now, every masjid has a Saturday Sunday school, and every masjid, Saturday Sunday school it has people. People are there, and the people that are running it also have khair in their mind, that we want to do good for these people, but they don't have a curriculum. It's a band-aid job. And when a band-aid is on, you think everything is okay. But the second it gets infected, like, oh, it wasn't right. I should have done something bigger. So right now, we're going through that phase. So the biggest challenge, I think, for many of our youth right now is, again, to find a kahf, to find someone that they can be with and that can relate to them, come to their level. And when they come to their level, make them feel special. How the Prophet did to every single Sahaba. Ibn As says that every single Sahaba felt like the Prophet loved us more than anyone else, to a certain extent where I thought that I was the most beloved of the Prophet.
Right.
So as much as shuyukh, or even as youth leaders or community leaders, make people feel loved. There's value within them.
That's good. So we want to sort of connect up with them. But what about this thing that some people say that when you drop to their level, then you're also compromising? Is that also happening? Is that
these youngsters, Shaykh, we deal with them on a daily basis, and we're young ourselves. They don't make you compromise.
Okay.
You go out to them, you go to a normal place, you have a good time, you relax. It's our fault.
And we should do that with the youth, right? To bring them closer, right? Because they need to know that we're real like them. We're not these old baggages that they need to discard, right?
Shaykh, in Michigan, it's our fault. We don't give enough time to our youth. We don't give enough time to the people that are within our communities. Even though they'll text you, they want you to come to a program, like, oh, we don't have time. So if we can do a better job in making ourselves available for them, all the Prophet want to make himself available for people.
But not to just tell me one of the things about the challenges. So what are the challenges that they're facing? Let's say some of the ulama out there, some of the people after they're trying. But then we're still hearing these stories, and of course it's not because what's happening today. You're right. 10 years ago, the facilities that were there, right now we've got better facilities. But what is that part of the cycle that we need to address, that is creating these people that are leaving the deen or on the verge?
Giving them a better education when they're in elementary and middle school, Shaykh.
Right.
Like how Safar Publication, Safar Academy, that series, which give them all of their foundational levels of ilm and education, that will just become They empower them as they're going through colleges. And the most difficult part in America, uh, even way more than England, way more than any country in the world, Sheikh, is that the kids have so many more challenges because there's less people, there's less Muslims based upon the demographics, based upon the areas that they live in.
Yes.
So now, if you go to a school and you're the only Muslim there, and you want to feel, I mean, every kid wants to feel liked, he wants to feel welcomed, and now you start chilling out with these guys, hanging out with him, unintentionally, unwillingly, maybe some things will leave you. And by that time, you go in and you try to help these people. And sometimes it's too late, but it's never too late in that sense. But sometimes it becomes a bigger challenge. So for parents, and my older brother always says, for parents, you're the most important faculty in the sense that if you create a good environment in the home. So people always ask us, what did your parents do for you? And we were born in America. All of us, 5 brothers, raised here. What did your parents do for you? Well, our parents, they made sure that every single day before we slept, we recited a few ahadith.
Okay.
So you build an environment in the house. Now, when you leave the house, you mess around. You do what you have to do. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. But when you come back to the house, there's always that ending. Amal bil khawatim. You're ending the day off on the right note. You have a few hadith. You put your Isha together. And now you go to sleep. At least you ended off on the right foot. So a lot of these challenges of drugs, of pills, of depression. Why should one feel depressed when they're valuable?
Tell me, why is there more depression amongst the youth over here comparatively to the rest of the world? What are you guys?
Is that true, Shaykh?
That's true, man. That is true, man. I mean,
What have you seen? What have you seen?
What we've got is we've got youth now across in Britain that have got a relatively higher depression rate than before. And they say one of the big causes of that is the social media. Because what's happening is that people, we've entered this world where everything's got to be likable, everything's got to be, everyone's going to like me, everyone's going to give me credit, everyone has to say yes to me and I'm okay, and so on. So we live this life of that. And the moment you have people giving me dislikes, or there's some, bullying, or there's some, real serious sort of challenge with people in the politics, because politics is everywhere, it's not just in the parliaments and the senators. Politics is in every form of life. So when they get into this politics and they're the victim of somebody else throwing the politics at them, then they get a bit, they get some kind of anxiety and so on. But, I've seen clear data that one of the biggest problems that you've got in American society now generally is this whole thing about depression. That this is one of the modern day epidemics that we've got. So you got any other reason to add to this of why this might be happening?
Sure, you knocked it out of the ballpark. And what we can do is there were challenges in every society that came before us. There was some form of depression. There's always these challenges that come. Every challenge that comes to our communities, we have a solution from the life of the Prophet. And one of the solutions that I derive from one of the beautiful narrations, al-mu'minu ya'lafu wa yu'lafu. A believer is someone that when you meet him, you feel connected and you want to sit with him and you want to be with him. So for a moment, if we take out all of the racism and if we take out all of the other people, all of the other influences that come with us being Americans and going to college, let's take all that out. If just as Muslims, when we meet each other, if we're able to give off good vibes, one of the most beloved actions to Allah is to make your Muslim brother or sister happy when you meet them. Just that in itself, like, hey man, you look good today. Oh, mashallah, man, how's your day?
Yeah. One of the things I have to say in America, you're a lot more happier than we are in Britain.
Really?
Yeah.
That's your weather.
We're the weather. That's what it is. It's our weather. It's true.
Weather.
It is our weather, and actually, it's true because when I travel outside of the country, if you look at any hot countries, because of the sun, it makes people want to come out. It makes people in a good mood. It makes people want to connect with one another. In America, you've got a lot much better weather than over there in Britain. But I can't say that for Michigan at the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Taking back, let me ask you that. So in America, for example, we have our youth that are influenced with just their identity, like how to keep Islam, how to stay empowered by being Muslims, not just internally, but even to an extent externally. Being happy, saying you're Muslim, keeping your name the way it is. And what do you think? Because you guys are 50 years ahead of us in England, right? And you guys have been through this, and you guys, to a certain extent, have succeeded, right? To a certain, of course, there's always places where you can get better. but to a certain extent, you've gone through what we're going through today. So the wise person is the person that learns from others. So like, what can you tell us, the youngsters of our country, and anyone that's dealing with this? How can we, perhaps based upon your experiences, get past this?
One of the things I would say to you is, on a top level, I think the masjids and the committees of the masjids really need to address this issue, because most of these masjids that I've seen, they're run by people who actually, they're activists who set up the masjid, they're donors who gave money to the masjid, they're doctors who were professionals and who knew how to bring people together. And they set up the masjid, which is brilliant. But the job they did in America was brilliant. But now, to run these masjids, like if I was to say to you to run a restaurant, what do you need? Well, you need waiters, right? You need chefs and waiters, right? Chefs are probably the main important thing. Waiters are going to serve, but chef is the real deal for the restaurant. Now, what's the real deal for the masjid? The real deal for the masjid is the imam. It's not your activists. It's not, you're serving. Your activists, you're like the waiters, your professionals, your doctors. You're doing a good job as well. But you could be the governor, you could be wherever, but without your chefs, your restaurant is gone. Without the imams, your masjids are nothing, right? So we need to empower our imams, get the more learned people in positions, give them, give them real platform for them to speak.
Good salaries,
right?
In that sense too.
Well, yeah, well, in America, you've already got, mashallah, very good salaries over there, compared to Britain, again, right? But alhamdulillah. So what I would say after that is that, okay, let's say that aside. So you've got the structure there. The next thing is that you want to try, I know it's difficult here. One of the reasons is that American society is such that you've got the houses far apart from one another, which for you is like luxurious space, but that prevents it from becoming a community, right? A neighborhood and a community. So there are a few places in America I've seen that you've actually got a proper neighborhood around the masjid. Those ones thrive quite a lot because you've got the sense of community and the whole spirit is together. Otherwise, it's 20-minute drive to the masjid, half an hour drive to the masjid. People don't come except once or twice a week. Maybe a few nights here and there, that's it. So they have little contact with the masjid. So try and get that community kind of spirit. The other thing that I'm going to say to you is that if you can, on a really good level, I know you have these youth conferences, you have all that. What they really need is to go for, it would be brilliant if you can do this. Take them outside the country. Take them somewhere else in a third world country. Let them see life for what it really is. Let them come back and appreciate what life is. Because most of us in the West, especially in America, you got everything. So you don't, they say you appreciate something before you have it and after you lose it, but not while you have it, right? So because you guys have got everything, and you want something, Amazon.com, click, it's there the same day. Okay, boxes and boxes are arriving in your house, right? What is it that you guys don't have? But what that leads to is not appreciating where you guys are, right? And especially with religion, these kids, a lot of them are spoiled in some sense because they kind of have taken everything for granted. Everything for granted, to the extent that, look, the laws in the Western countries prevent parents from smacking their children. The laws prevent them from in any form of discrimination towards the children, and so on. And that's fine. You've now created a harmonious relationship or a platform for parents and kids. What's happening now is that the kids now have the ability to swear at the parents or to, jibe at the parents or something else, right? Why did they do that? Because they don't know the value of what they have. To get the value of that, I remember my dad, when I was young, 11 years old, he took the whole family to Bangladesh for 1 full year, right? In mosquitoes, in, amongst water that is not sanitized, that you have the heat, you have no fans, there was no electricity, there's no the toilets were outside of the house, right? We had some good boot camp training. When we came back, right, the best thing was that we appreciated even the water. Even the water was sweet to us. It was cold, it was sweet. The air of Britain was fresh, and we loved it. And then we said to ourselves, you know what? We know the value of life. So it changed things. Anyway, you got anything to add to this or before we?
I think, Shaykh, you at the end, that last point, taking them out of their environment and bringing them somewhere else. Even from Mecca, the Prophet took them to Medina, and Islam flourished. So if we're able to, it doesn't have to be in a different country, even to a certain extent. Like and i'tikaf in a masjid away from a phone, with the shaykh, with the imam, with the leader, and then at the same time there's some suhbah, there's some adhkar, tilawa, and then you have environment. So environment can do everything. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh.
حياكم الله.
Thanks so much. Shaykh.